Lady K.
Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that has been designed for divorced women to become a better version of themselves. Various subjects will be speaked upon, such as relationship, personal development, health and wellness, wealth building, children, and so much more. The shows will be aired every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time by the lovely host, who is an international speaker, two-time Amazon bestseller author, and a divorce life coach, Kalima, aka Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K. Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in today's episode of Mental. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking about the mental health effect when you're going through a divorce, coming from the perspective of a licensed clinical worker, if I said that correctly. And I have the pleasure, because she is the owner and the CEO of her own company of Restoration Family Services. And I would like to welcome Ms. Prunella Harris. How are you, Ms. Harris?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to your listeners and viewers. I am very honored to be here. Thank you.
I thank you for taking the time out and just educating us, and just, enlighten the audience, how can divorce, affect, I'm going to start with the parents first. How can that affect the parents' mental health?
Well, divorce is a huge life transition.
Right.
And many individuals going through a divorce will experience many of the same things that you experience with grief and loss, sadness, depression, anxiety. And with that, depending on the terms of the divorce, there's resentment, anger. So there's a whole variability on the level of emotions that you can experience while going through or experiencing a divorce.
Right. And even for the people that, I heard experience, they say their divorce was amicable, but even sometimes with that, like you said, you can still go through the emotions. Would you agree?
Absolutely, because it is such a huge transition. Even if it's a divorce that you wanted, that you think betters your position in life, there's still a level of sadness, a transition that you go through,
Right.
and a loss of a relationship.
Right. Because I didn't get to tell you about mine, but mine was, it was traumatic. It was really horrible. So I really went through the emotions. And then on top of that, I was pregnant with my baby boy. So mine was really, when I say I was really going through the emotions, I went through the emotions. And I know when I was at the point of even birthing my son, not to know that, not to have my husband present in the room. Oh my gosh, I did a number on me. So I could imagine how maybe, other people may feel, because I don't know everyone's circumstances, but I know mine just personally, it was really hard. The transition was hard, but it took some time. But I just want to encourage everyone that, just to take their time, and take the steps, and if you need to seek counseling, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know why, especially in our community, people feel like something is wrong when you seek therapy. Can you elaborate a little bit, like, just to give people confidence that there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you're going through that transition?
Yes, talking with someone is always a good way to process your own emotions, to put things in perspective, because sometimes when we go through something, we can see all of the benefits or the thought traps that we're in because we're in it, and having someone who's objective take you through that process and hey, have you explored this, or maybe try viewing it this way, to help you continue to move forward in your journey. But mental health has been stigmatized, and it's getting better. More and more individuals are opening up and sharing, like yourself. And I just definitely appreciate the fact that you have this platform and you're poured into the lives of other people and being a beacon of hope to other people who are
Right.
going through divorce. So it's people like you, it's people who are saying, hey, you know what? My journey wasn't easy, but I got through it, and so can you. So let me help you. So that helps destigmatize mental health.
Right. And just like you said, when I was going through mine and I was silent, right? I was silent for a short period of time because, you feel embarrassed, you feel like, I'm going through a divorce, I don't want to talk about that, and also too within how society looks at you, they kind of make it, look like, what's wrong with you? Because people don't realize that, yes, it takes two. There's two sides of the story, and people are so quick just to come out with judgment. And it's like, you have no idea. Maybe it was for the better for that person. Yes, everybody wants to the death to depart, but that's not everybody's story. So it's like, I just still want to let people know, like, I think people should just be sensitive with people's scenarios because they just never know.
Absolutely. And that fear of judgment is what keeps everyone quiet and silent about their own mental well-being, about challenges that they're going through because they fear judgment, criticism, ridicule. So it is important to just speak their truth because of that fear of how others may perceive them or what they might think of them. And so it's freeing, liberating to one, go seek treatment and then to live your truth
Right.
and not care so much what other people might say or how other people might judge because you're making a decision that will better your life.
Absolutely. And that's so true that you said that. It was like you said, you're making a decision based on, between the two of you and where you come, but which sometimes outsiders, they don't understand that because I get this all the time. I see this a lot. People say, oh, but you got like a great couple, right? So I'm like, what does a great couple look like?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because we smile in public, but when we get back home, we hate each other when we sleep in separate rooms. Because guess what? Do you know how many people that I heard that same story? They front on Facebook and the Instagram, they smile in public, but deep down inside, they can't even stand the person that they're sleeping with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, how long is that person supposed to go? And that too, that even plays a major part in someone's mental health. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Not being authentic, not being able to share what's going on with you, your most intimate thoughts, and having have one facade in public and another behind closed doors is absolutely because ultimately we all want to be happy. We all want to be at peace, and
Right.
it's difficult when you don't have that in your relationship.
Right. And also too, I understand, there are peaks in a relationship where you might go through tough times, but you might be able to bounce back, and come together, and keep the relationship strong. But again, we all know that's not everyone's story. And sometimes maybe that person is not meant to be long time. That's honestly how I feel sometimes, but everybody else have their own different opinions and different views. And I know sometimes people say second time is a charm because sometimes when they leave that first relationship and they may go into another one, it might work out better. But you have to understand people come from different places. I had a conversation with someone last night and she was with her man for 10 years, but pretty much in their situation they pretty much grew up together, so they had to learn a lot together versus someone like if you're like maybe I'm just throwing out numbers, like say like if you're like in your mid-30s and the other person's maybe in their 40s. Sometimes in that time frame people are already set in their ways and they're not willing to change versus if y'all met at 18 and then y'all make it through to 40, you grew together, you understand? So I understand everybody's situation is different and sometimes it's okay if you have to throw in the towels. But I just wanted to shift a little bit and say when it comes to children, right? How do you think like sometimes the children would deal with the circumstances of knowing that their parents is going through a divorce and these are small children?
Well, it is definitely difficult for children because they're used to this family dynamic. And
Right.
so, because this is such a huge transition, there will be some adjustments to this transition. And some things to look out for when looking to see if your child is adjusting or not adjusting well is how are they performing in school? Have you seen a major change in their academic performance?
Right.
Do they demonstrate a loss of interest in social activities? Were they really like bubbly before the divorce and now starting to socially isolate themselves or not interested in playing soccer or baseball or basketball, things that they used to once find joy in? Um, do they have a difficult time adapting to change? Divorce, like I said, brings lots of change, new family dynamics, new housing or living situations. They might have to go to new schools. They might have to make new friends. So, how maneuvering those changes. You notice they might or they just feel overwhelmed often.
Right.
So kind of looking for that anger, irritability. Sometimes kids feel guilty. Maybe if I was just a better kid or I behaved better, my parents would still be together, or they wouldn't fight as much, or things of that nature.
Right.
Health problems, they can also internalize their stress so much so that it becomes a somatic complaint or physical complaint, complaining of headaches or stomach aches, or just feeling lethargic or sleepy or tired. So those are some things to look for if
Qu-
they're not adjusting.
Question for you, because you said something that has made me trigger. Because you said sometimes, they'll say their stomach hurt or they'll say they headache. Is that part of having anxiety?
Yes, that can be a symptom. Kids are not, younger kids will typically demonstrate physical symptoms of anxiety. So maybe their stomachs, they might complain of stomach aches or headaches more often than just saying, I'm really worried, because
Mm,
that takes a more, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? There is a more sophisticated view of your internal process, but they just may be able to give you the symptoms. And with
right.
anxiety, you do, as adults, we might get tension headaches, or we might get uh, upset stomach or GI issues when we're dealing with anxiety.
Mm. Um, I have a question for you too. Do you think, with over your years of experience, do you think there's a I guess a certain age group they might have a more difficult problem with their parents separated, or do you see that all around in all kids' ages?
It really depends on the family dynamics. Um, Younger children tend to adapt more because they're younger.
Okay.
And if the transition happens at a younger age. But there are even adult children whose parents have separated that still have some difficulty. So it's really hard to say. It's really based on that person's interpretation. So it's a case by case basis
Okay.
on how well they get through a divorce. But younger children, I would say children under the age of 5 um, adapt to the change more readily than older children.
Right, especially like, because they're accustomed, like you said, they're accustomed to certain ways. Now, I know personally, my 4-year-old at first, he had a hard time with the transition because, he was really young. Not
Mhm.
because, like I said, my ex-husband and I was already divorced before. Let's see, we wasn't even together when my son was born. So, he saw mommy most of the time, it was mostly me. So when he got to the point of going to daddy house, it was like, I don't think at first he liked it because it was like two different households, two different, lifestyle. So it was challenging. So now at the age of 4, he's just now hip into it,
Mm.
but it was challenging for him. And when I say he has a personality on him, he has such a personality on him because he will tell you, no, I don't want to go. And it was really challenging because I had to encourage him to want to go to his father's house. I didn't want to force him, but sometimes he'll be very direct. No, I don't want to go. Now,
Mhm.
in that case, how can you like help someone in that scenario where the child is saying they don't want to go, but there's a court order? Like that's really challenging right there. Can you talk about that area?
Yeah, and I think by validating their emotions, I know you may not want to go because you're not familiar, but this is why we're doing these visits is to, get comfortable so that you can get to know your dad or if it's your mom a little better. I'm just really encouraging. So encouraging him to express, and in your case, encouraging your child to express themselves, validating that, yeah, I can understand why he's that way. But unfortunately, we still have to, try it out. Maybe not use the word unfortunately, because then he will dig into it. Out,
Right.
we need to give that a chance, and I'm sure you're going to have fun, and just try to be as optimistic about it as you can, and then with consistency, they will start to warm up to the idea of doing visits.
Right. I can definitely co-sign to that because it took my son about 3 years. 3 years just to adapt. Now you would say like 3 years, like that's a long time. What? But just like you just said, I had to really encourage him. Sometimes it was really hard. It was not easy at all, but now I think he's finally getting to the level where he feels comfortable. And I think also too because he's older and he can talk and he can express himself. Versus
Hmm.
when he was a baby, he can't say much.
Yes. Yes.
So I can definitely piggyback off of that. So I thank you for that. And also too, ladies and gentlemen, she shared a article with me of parents do's and don'ts, and I will put that on my website. What to do to help your child cope with divorce. So I will put that on the website. When I air this segment. But Prunella, is there anything else you want to leave the people with about separating and divorce and children?
Children can uh, adjust well after a divorce. And it really depends on how well the parents do with that divorce. So if you guys are doing well, they will do well. If you guys are co parenting well, they will adjust well. So just thinking about when you guys are engaging and when you're talking in earshot of those kids, just making sure that you're having positive conversations because that's what's in the best interest of the kids. So
Right.
many times kids will have a difficult time is because there's so much animosity and tension that goes on during a divorce, and parents are still very angry at one another, and the kids end up absorbing all of that
Right.
negativity, and it makes their recovery or their transition into the next phase of their life difficult.
Right.
So the takeaway from this is that, hey, if you're doing well with experiencing a divorce or going through divorce, your children will do well.
Okay. One more thing that I had this popped into my head is that when you was talking, if one parent is trying their best to make the transition, easier for their child, but one parent is being very difficult, how can you work around that? Because I seen it, and then I also been involved in it. So, what would be your advice to that couple that's like I said, one person is open minded to it, and the other person is giving a really difficult time?
And those situations are the toughest
Yes.
because I see individuals in that situation more often than not. Uh, I would suggest a co parenting therapist, and that's a therapist. So, goal is to help the parents come up with a co parenting plan and help them resolve any issues, work on forgiveness so that they can move past the bitterness and anger and do what's in the best interest of the kids, of the children. And
Yeah.
if that doesn't work, and if you tried the co-parenting route and the other parent is still very angry and bitter, you can only control your role. So
Right.
you would continue to be the best version of yourself or your children that you can be, and just educate your kids. Well, mommy or daddy will come around, and you know what? It's okay. Sometimes once the family changes, people get upset, and that's okay. But when you're here, this is how we're going to deal with it. And we're going to be positive and just really encouraging your kids to get on board with a more positive outlook rather than staying stuck in that negative frame of mind and that vindictive nature, that back and forth.
Okay. I thank you for that because pretty much what you said, that kind of happened in my scenario. Like, one was willing, the other one wasn't, but the other one starting to come around, and it's starting to work. So definitely what you're saying, it does make sense, and it does work, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want to be an encouragement to anyone who feels like they are going through it with their ex-spouse, because I am a walking and talking testimony, and I'm able to still smile, and I'm still able to get on this microphone and talk to you to let you know that you are not by yourself. But I do thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If you continue to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Lady K Chat, and on my website www.ladykcoaching.com, and you guys have a wonderful night, and thank you for tuning in.